MLBBro Show podcast is sponsored by Prime 39. Long Island's newest restaurant is located in the heart of Lynbrook. Prime 39 boasts an intimate yet chic ambiance, bringing you a Manhattan eclectic vibe to Nassau County.
Welcome to another episode of the MLBBro Show podcast mixtape edition 3, where we break down and shake down and give you the rundown on black and brown players in the MLB and how they got down this week on the field and influencing the culture. I'm the Gambler, a baseball lifer, and I chronicle the melanated diamond miners that make MLB dope.
This is the rundown. Stay 10 toes, baby. Don't let your team get taken out the game.
Let's kick it off as usual with the rundown. Giancarlo Stanton of the Yankees has been the topic of discussion when it comes to MLB bros this past week. The 2017 MVP who smashed 59 bombs and came to the Yankees with visions of creating a murderer's row with Aaron Judge is coming off a 12-game hitting streak. He's been on fire. That has propelled the Yankees back into contention and over 500. Stanton's hitting over 290 with 9 jacks and is spraying the ball all over the field and is far from the boom or bust player that he appeared to be the last few seasons. Evidence: his plethora of multi-hit games and his walk-off single against the Nationals on Mother's Day.
The Black Ace Report, baby. Woo!
Next up on the rundown is Mariners center fielder Kyle Lewis, who's finally finding his groove after missing the first 17 games of the season. The 2020 AL Rookie of the Year was batting .548 in his last 3 games going into Tuesday's action, and he's been stringing multiple hit games together to get his average up around 260. The glove work, it's still lit, and the bat is coming around. Expect Lewis to have another monster season now that he is healthy. Continuing the rundown, welcome back to slugger Chris Crush Davis, the Black Knight, who finally took the field for the Rangers this past week. Davis has been trying to get his spice back from 2016 to 18 when he bashed 42 and then 43 and a high of 48 homers, good for best in the majors over that span. After a rough COVID season, the baseball world is very interested to see if Chris Crush Davis can regain his incredible power back. That leaves us with San Diego Padres 24-year-old center fielder Trent Grisham, the Gold Glover. He's usually the party starter at the top of a potent Padres lineup, and he's often overshadowed by names like Fernando Tatis and Manny Machado. Well, this season, Grisham's been killing it after winning that Gold Glove in 2021. Now his bat's doing the talking, and he's batting close to 300 with power, and he's top 10 in steals. He's definitely the X factor for this Padres team. And that's it for the rundown. Watch these guys coming through.
The Black Ace Report, baby. Woo!
It's time for the Black Ace Report. Every week we have to lead off with the best melanated male marauder in the game. Who is that, you ask? Cy Young candidate, 25-year-old Jack Flaherty of the St. Louis Cardinals. Everybody was saying he wasn't a true Cy Young candidate because he gets great run support from this awesome St. Louis Cardinals offense, and that was the reason why Flaherty was 5-0 to start the season with an ERA nearing 3.5. Well, Flaherty made him stop, drop, shut him down, and open up shop in his last start, shutting down the Rockies over 7 innings, allowing just 3 hits. The Golden Arm Bro is now a league-leading 6-0, and his ERA is 2.83. He's legit as an ace, folks, of this Cardinals team, who is in first place in the NL Central. The way Flaherty is dominating, there's really nothing else to talk about in the Black Ace Report, except the Mets' dynamic duo of Marcus Stroman and Taijuan Walker, who both have ERAs under 3 and can dominate, which they will have to do while the Mets figure out what's good with Jacob deGrom and the stiffness situation. So until then, they got the Black Knights on the attack. And that's the Black Ace Report for this week.
Man, I don't care what you swing at it. Black don't crack.
You heard Stowe. Black don't crack. A lot of folks have been doubting Philadelphia Phillies veteran Andrew McCutchen. And like Pooh Shiesty, he's making them pay for it in blood. McCutchen has jumped from the leading candidate to show enough in the rut, and people saying he's washed, to getting that veteran bat to come alive for the Phillies. In the words of KRS-One, we're not done. We're not done. Kutch's Mother's Day leadoff homer prompted him to do something he usually doesn't do. Talk that talk. As he rounded the bases, a usually reserved McCutchen, while mic'd up, said, "Just like that, baby. I'm the best." Sounds cocky coming from a guy making $15 million a year and hitting .227, but it's totally understandable why the former NL MVP, a guy once considered the best in the game, would take any talk of his demise personally. It's clearly been an inspiration for a 13-year veteran like McCutchen, who is 2 homers shy of 250 career bombs. But in the last 7 days before Tuesday night's game, McCutchen was banging .384 with 3 homers and 6 RBIs. So yeah, he's on fire, and he seems to have been rebirthed with all of the talk about him possibly being done. We wrote about that in MLBBro.com. He explained why he was so emotional rounding those bases on Sunday. This is what McCutchen said. "I don't mean this in a cocky way, but I've learned that you have to believe in yourself before anyone else can. People will give up on you if you don't meet their expectations. I will never give up on me. Self-talk is the best talk. Let's get 'em Tuesday." Look, Kutch, you've earned the right to talk greasy and address the haters who rather see you in a baseball box than getting base knocks. Keep it up. You've been one of the greatest Black Knights of the decade, and it's good to see you going out on top in a divisional race, hitting homers that count. It's probably our last shot, McCutch. You gotta do it. Win this elusive World Series and become immortalized. Yup, cause black don't crack.
You are now tuned in with Classic Hits, bringing the sick and classics with David Grubb.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm David Grubb, and this is another edition of Classic Hits on the MLBBro podcast. If this is your first time checking in, on Classic Hits, I go digging in the crates of baseball's past to talk about the greatest black players and characters in the history of the game. Today's Classic Hit belongs to outfielder Otis Nixon. Otis Nixon spent nearly 20 years in the big leagues and stole more than 600 bases in his career. But he was never going to be a superstar during the 1980s and 1990s. And you get why. I mean, he was just a career .270 hitter, and he never hit more than 3 home runs in any season. I mean, Otis had 11 home runs for his entire career. 11! There are 3 or 4 guys with that many in Major League Baseball who have that right now. It was just a different time and a different game. What's always been true in sports is that everybody can't be the star. Some guys are the straw that stirs the drink, and there are others who are the ice cubes or the lemon wedge. I don't know which Otis is in this analogy, but you get the picture. Otis struggled to make a mark in the big leagues over the first 8 seasons of his career. With the Yankees, Indians, and Expos, he played less than 4 seasons worth of games combined. Though there is no evidence to support it, I would like to give Otis Nixon credit for being the model for Willie Mays Hayes in the movie Major League. Come on, that movie came out in 1989, and Otis played center field for the Cleveland Indians from 1984 to 87. If you remember the famous line, "You may run like Mays, but you hit like..." Yeah, that was a legitimate description of Otis's career up to that point. But then right before the start of the 1991 season, everything changed. At 32 years old, Otis got sent from Montreal down to the Atlanta Braves, where he joined a collection of black players that included Terry Pendleton, Lonnie Smith, Ron Gant, David Justice, Brian Hunter, Deion Sanders, and Keith Mitchell. 8 brothers on the same big league team in Atlanta during the early 1990s. Man, somebody has to get a 30 for 30 on that, because I can guarantee that Lou Williams wasn't the first professional athlete to enjoy some lemon pepper wings at Magic City. Otis was just supposed to be a throw-in, a 4th outfielder traded for a backup catcher and some change. Instead, Nixon led the National League with 72 stolen bases that season, still a franchise record, while Atlanta went from worst to first before losing the World Series to Kirby Puckett and the Minnesota Twins. Atlanta had the better team, but they were missing a big piece in those playoffs: Otis. Otis Nixon didn't get to play an inning of the postseason in 1991. Instead, he was MIA with a drug suspension, the second one of his career. There are folks who are still pissed at Nixon for that one. When you think about Atlanta losing that series by 1 run in 7 games, and of course there was Lonnie Smith's base running, yeah, I get it. There's no need to sugarcoat it. That's what it was. He bounced back though. Otis never won that championship with the Braves, but he did have the most successful stretch of his career in Atlanta. In 3 seasons, he scored 237 runs and stole 160 bases with a .286 average. He was solid for the rest of his career, still running for the Red Sox, Rangers, Blue Jays, Dodgers, and Twins before going back to the ATL to wrap it up. No one stole more bases in the entire decade of the 90s than Otis Nixon. Nobody. And in the history of baseball, no one's stolen more bases without ever making an all-star team. Like his autobiography says, Nixon was just always keeping it real, for better or for worse. It hasn't always been an easy trip for Otis Nixon, but it has been a memorable one. Despite the off-field problems and the struggles with sobriety, he had some major wins, and he left an imprint on the game. And most importantly, he's still going. Until next time, I'm David Grubb, and this has been another Classic Hit.
All things physical destined for change, and this is Changing the Culture.
This week on Changing the Culture, we highlight the Yankees and the Mariners, 2 squads who will pump out 3 Black Knights in a starting lineup on any given day. And with less than 8% of major leaguers being black or brown, that's an impressive number. Now, a lot of teams have 2 everyday black starters. The Orioles with Cedric Mullins and DJ Stewart. The Marlins with Lewis Brinson and Jazz Chisholm. Nick Gordon and Byron Buxton when he's healthy up in Minnesota. Don't forget the Josh brothers, Josh Bell and Josh Harrison on the Nasty Nats. Any given day you can get 2 or maybe even a starting pitcher here and there in MLB. But only the Yankees and the Marlins offer 3 starters in the lineup almost every day. Change the culture. The Yankees have Aaron Hicks, Stanton, and Judge. All 3 hitting the top 4 of that potent Yankees lineup. The Mariners can offer a lineup of Kyle Lewis, Taylor Trammell in the outfield, and Gold Glover J.P. Crawford at short, a black infielder, a shortstop at that. Go figure. Both of these successful teams show the power of the black player. Black players were some of the driving forces behind the Yankees dynasties of the late 90s, early 2000s, starting with the captain Derek Jeter. The athleticism, electricity, and multiple tools that the Mariners black players bring us are great for the game. Let's not forget their 2 starting pitchers, Justin Dunn and Justice Sheffield. Black Knights. In most cities, having that many black people on one baseball field, well, that might get you arrested. In these cities, it's part of the culture. Changing the culture.
Damn, them boys down bad. Now it's time for Show Nuff in the Rut.
We talked about the best players, who's hot right now. Sometimes you have to talk about who's not. And who is show nuff in a rut. Because baseball is that type of game. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. And right now, the great Mookie Betts is still off to a slow start to the season. But he's got his average above 260 and is working his way slowly back into all-star form. But he's shown up in a rut. Justin Upton's had some moments of power and a nice little hit streak. But right now, he's batting just .214. The veteran is shown up in a rut. Yankees outfielder Aaron Hicks still can't get in the flow, and he's batting below the Mendoza line, a .198. That's not a good look. Jackie Bradley Jr. is batting a .182 and hasn't done much since getting his 100th career home run. And the consummate pro, Jason Hayward, he's struggling at 173, but respectably. Let's hope these guys get off the snide soon, and they all have way too much talent and experience to continue being this bad. Well, that wraps up another episode of the MLBBro Show podcast mixtape. We hope you felt the bass in your face and heard the Soul Brothers Show glow sound in your ear. Black and brown players have made tremendous impacts on baseball and are all over the record books. I step to the mic with a dime in mind and bring some color to the coverage of baseball. Check me next week as we continue to break the mold and feature the soul of the game on the MLBBro Show podcast mixtape. Till then, peace.
Extra, read all about it. This is Extra Bass Power.
What's up, everyone? Christian Crittenden here, once again, bringing you another edition of Extra Bass Power here on the MLBBro Show podcast, where I'll be telling you about some of the best things that I saw from black and brown players throughout the game of baseball this week. First up this week, we're going to highlight some of the MLB bros that have been very good for the team so far, but they've flown under the radar and they don't always get the pub that they deserve. Hey, but that's what we're here for at MLBBro.com. So we're going to start with Josh Harrison, a true veteran, 11-year vet for the Washington Nationals. Entering play on Monday, he's batting .291 with 3 home runs and 819 OPS. He was huge for the Nats last week in a win over the Yankees with a 3-1 bomb. A guy that comes ready to play every day, whether it's at second base, third base, in the outfield. Wherever you ask him to play, he's going to play it. He's going to play it well. Wherever you ask him to hit in the lineup, he's going to hit and do that at impactful as well. A true pro, a guy that you want in your organization. Next up, we got a youngin, Willie Calhoun. Entering play on Monday, he's batting .329 with 3 home runs and an OPS of .875. He's a former top prospect with the Dodgers and the Rangers when he came over from the Dodgers organization in a trade a few years ago. He's battled injuries throughout his career, but he finally seems to be healthy, and we're finally starting to see the guy that was highly touted, the guy that everyone thought he could be. So much so that even with the return of Chris Davis, manager Chris Woodward said that he's still going to continue to play every day. That's just how good Calhoun has been for the Rangers so far this season. Next up, we got Marcus Simeon, who entering play Monday. He's batting .262 with 8 home runs, 19 RBI, OPS of .808. This guy has been on fire of late with the 9-game hitting streak. He sits safely in 15 out of 16 games, but more importantly, he got revenge on his old team last week, the Oakland A's. When he played them, he was 4 for 6 with a double and a home run, showing them that they should have kept him there out in Oakland. And last week, we got the table setter for the San Diego Padres, Trent Grisham. Now, when you hear about the Padres, you don't always hear about Grisham. You hear about Tatis Jr., you hear about Manny Machado, Blake Snell. But Trent Grisham's at the top of the order, setting the pace for these guys every day. Entering Monday, he's batting .293 with 5 home runs, an OPS of .855, 6 stolen bases. You see up and down, the guy gets it done, night in and night out. Truly deserves more praise than what he gets out there. But once again, that's what we're here for at MLBBro.com, to tell you about the bros that are doing really well in the MLB. For our next big hit, we're going to highlight some of the MLB bros who throw absolute heat on the mound and answer the bell whenever they give them the ball on the bump for their respective teams. We got Jack Flaherty, who entering play on Monday is 6-0 with a 2.83 ERA and 42 strikeouts. Some say he's the number 2 down there in St. Louis, but if we're being honest, he's the number 1. He's a true ace of that staff. Whenever you need a big game won, whenever you need something done, they call on Flaherty, and more often than not, he answers the bell every time. Not only that, the guy's outspoken on the injustices that plague black and brown people in this country. What more do you want from a star? What more do you want from MLB Bro to use their voice, to use their platform to try to improve things for black and brown people in this world? Flaherty puts his money where his mouth is, and you have to respect him for that. Next, we got Marcus Stroman, pitching for the hometown New York Mets, a New York native. So far in the season, entering Monday with 3-3 record, a 2.2 ERA, and 29 strikeouts. Look, number 2 guy there with the Mets, a frontline guy wherever he goes, even with the Blue Jays, still a frontline guy, a guy that you can count on night in and night out to bring it and give you his all. And his teammate, Taijuan Walker, who's been very good of late, entering Monday with a 2.3 ERA and 35 strikeouts. Once again, what you want from a guy, when you're going to give him the ball, you know what you're going to get. You know he's going to bring it his all. And these 3 guys alone have the state of the black pitcher, at least the starters, in a very good spot for the MLB Bros. And they can be better. But these three guys are setting a very good example. And another guy to look out for is Tristan McKenzie for the Indians. He had some really good starts last year in the shortened season. He struggled a bit this season, but he has all the tools and the mechanics. He's very young in his career, a guy that could end up being, just like the three I mentioned earlier, a front-end starter in the MLB. And that's all for Extra Base Power on this week's show. Make sure you tune in next week for more coverage of the MLB Bros. I'm Christian Crittenden.
MLBBro Show podcast is sponsored by Prime 39. Long Island's newest restaurant is located in the heart of Lynbrook. Prime 39 boasts an intimate yet chic ambiance, bringing you a Manhattan eclectic vibe to Nassau County. And also sponsored by 222 Media and Space Fruit Courier Service. Services out of this world, coming straight to a neighborhood near you. All music on the MLBBro Show podcast has been brought to you by Quate, Uninvited, and the Loner Music Group.